Hello everyone, I'm Jonathan Mahalik, and today I want to talk to you about one of the most significant women in America's founding, and that would be Abigail Adams. To start with, she was born in a wealthy family in Massachusetts, and although she received no formal education, her mother trained her from a young age to read and to write, and throughout her life, she would continue teaching herself in a variety of areas through her reading, and she became very well versed in the ideas of the day. She's most famous for three things. The first is being the wife to John Adams. This has been described as a marriage of the mind and the heart. This is different from a lot of marriages of the day, which might have been one or the other. Very few would have been both. But in the case of the Adamses, each enjoyed each other's company, and they enjoyed discussing ideas with one another. And due to the nature of John's job, he was away a lot, but while they were gone, they wrote frequently, and these letters really give us an insight into what the two of them were like. And the two Adamses like to toss ideas around with one another, and Abigail really, through her correspondence with John, provides a nice balance to his more impetuous and self-centered nature, and give him a more well-rounded perspective on things. And she's also, along with being his wife, became the first Second Lady of the United States and the second First Lady of the United States. And through her time as First Lady, although it wasn't called that at the time, she really defines the role of what a president's wife ought to be and ought to do. And she used her role to support her husband and to be very active socially, to build connections through entertaining and hosting and things like that. She once told John in a letter, "I can serve my partner, my family, and myself, and enjoy the satisfaction of your serving your country." So, also, she's known for being an advocate of women's rights, and some consider her the first such advocate in our country. She believed that the ideas of freedom from tyranny applied not just to the colonies from England, but also to an extent to women from men. She once reminded her husband that, I quote, "Remember, all men would be tyrants if they could." In that quote, she is arguing that he should support legislation in the Continental Congress which would give women greater rights, especially property rights. It's kind of humorous, that quote, because she's actually quoting John Adams back to himself from a previous letter that he'd written. So she believed that women deserved equal educational opportunity as men, and also that women should have the right to own property. And both these things are ones that women would eventually get, but Abigail was just a little bit ahead of her time on both these areas. And finally, she's known for being the mother of John Quincy Adams. John Adams was away from the home a lot due to his responsibilities in Philadelphia and later in Europe. And it left Abigail with a substantial amount of responsibility in running the farm and also in raising the children. And she believed that it was important for all her children to be educated. And she saw to it that that happened. Even during the war, at times when they couldn't have formal education, she herself was in charge of teaching her children. And she saw to it that John Quincy attended Harvard, and he would eventually go on to go into law, which would eventually lead him into politics, into the White House of the United States. So in conclusion, Abigail was ahead of her time, and yet she fit perfectly into her role and place in society. As one historian described it, Abigail was an essential part of John's life, not just as a wife and mother, but as a confidant, a source of information, a sounding board, and a partner.